Hey, greetings everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here. And I'm standing here in Keller, Texas at the beautiful Memorial of Flags because Veterans Day is coming up. And if you know the story of Veterans Day, it was basically the remembrance of the end of World War I, the Great War, the war that was to end all wars, the 11th day, the 11th hour in the 11th month. Now we remember it as Veterans Day. And as a veteran of the United States military, I think about that saying that we have, all gave some, but some gave all. And of course, on Memorial Day, we remember those who made the last full measure of devotion for this great nation. But on this Veterans Day, we should remember all of those who were willing to raise their right hand and say that they will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that they will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that they took that obligation freely without any purpose of evasion or mental reservation, and they ended it by saying, "So help me God." The oath that my dad took, who served in World War II, the oath that my older brother took, who served in Vietnam as a Marine, the oath that my father-in-law took, who served 2 combat tours of duty in Vietnam. It's the oath that I took, it's the oath that my nephew has taken, and it's the oath that I believe that my young son-in-law, he took as an enlisted guy going to basic training. Next summer, he will take that oath once again as a commissioned officer. And that's why we have these United States of America, because the men and women who are willing to raise their right hand, to make that last full measure of devotion, to give themselves, as it says in John 15:13, no greater love has a man that he will lay down his life for others. But the challenge that we have in these United States of America today is that we have young people that don't want to serve. And why do they not want to serve? Because we have a military that's not focused on what their true duties and responsibilities and their roles and their missions should be. And yet at the same time, we see the progression of evil as we saw on October the 7th of 2023. As a veteran of the United States military, it hurts my heart to see that we have Americans that would align themselves with an Islamic terrorist organization who is guilty of killing 30 to 31 Americans and holding Americans hostage right now. That we have members in elected positions in the United States of America that will support the rhetoric and the propaganda of a terrorist organization. And so what do we remember on Veterans Day? We should remember those that said that, as Isaiah said in chapter 6, verse 8, when the Lord stood up and said, "Whom shall we send? Who will go for us?" And Isaiah said, "Here am I, send me." And in these days and times, we need to make sure that our young men and young women are once again wholeheartedly inspired to say, "Send me." Right now, when we see that our recruiting and retention levels are suffering, right now when we see that we are giving free benefits to people that are here illegally, while we have young men and young women in our military struggling, going on food stamps, when our focus in our military is on cultural Marxism and DEI and gender dysphoria and all of these things that seek to divide us, not unite us, we need to get back to understanding what each one of these flags that are flying here represent. It represents maybe 10,000, 100,000 who have worn the uniform of our military, as you see down this road. The Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Space Force, and the Coast Guard. These are indeed the times which try men's souls, as Thomas Paine wrote in that pamphlet called The Crisis, at the early onset of the struggle of independence for our little fledgling nation. But he said that the summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this crisis shrink from their duties, but each one of these flags represent those people that did shrink from their duties. And as Paine said, to those who will make a stand, as we see these flags standing in the wind, that this nice breeze, they will deserve the love and admiration of all men and women. So on this Veterans Day, and every day should be Veterans Day, just find one, whether they're wearing a hat from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Panama, Iraq, Afghanistan, and just shake their hand and look them in the eye. Say Happy Veterans Day. And God bless you for protecting my freedoms and my liberties. Steadfast and loyal.